Visionaries Global Media, your number one source for podcasting entertainment.
Good, bad, good, bad, good, bad, good.
All right, welcome back to Good Cop, Bad Cop episode. Matt, it's a big number. 150. Wow, isn't that amazing? And not only that, this week we hit 6,000 followers as well. We dropped back to 5,999 for a second, but we jumped back up to 6,000 just as recording time, thank goodness. How are you doing, sir? Of course, this is going out on Independence Day as well.
It is indeed. I think God bless America, and all that nonsense. Yeah, and what better way to have an Independence Day special by having no Americans on the show?
No, that was planned all along. I think this episode, I booked a long time in advance, but when it kind of got to the end, it was like, it falls on July.
I do believe you got guest booked for July 2033 as well.
Not quite that far, mid-August. But yeah, once I saw it was on July 4th, I was like, we are definitely doing an all-British panel. And then we didn't realise, because I don't write down the numbers or anything, it wasn't until it was like probably 4 or 5 weeks before we suddenly realised it was going to be 150 as well. So the perfect way to do it. We intended having the biggest panel possible. Matt, it's difficult enough just to get us two together on at the same time. So it's not quite as big as we planned it to, but we still have our all-British panel. Go on, I'm going to let you do the introductions, particularly as you're related to one of these people as well. I think it's only fair.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I'm going to... I will start first by introducing someone making their debut on Good Cop, Bad Cop. Someone who we hoped to have on a few weeks ago, but were unable to get things synced up because of Graham's...
It was me.
Graham's inability to drive down I-95 in time. I could say my co-host from what you talking about, Willis? My co-host from Interlight Gossip, and also the man who I shared a bedroom with for 23 years. My brother. It's true. My brother James.
Oh, one introduction. Wow. Thanks for having me on, guys.
I didn't realise it was a Willis thing to be on so many podcasts. Wow, that was a longer list than I realised it was going to be.
He's been on 2 podcasts, to be fair. Certainly he's only filling in for one because his RT's unavailable at the moment. And to be fair, he's like on the shelf for now still. For now.
And our second guest?
And our second guest is, well, from someone who's only appeared on a couple of podcasts, someone who's put it on their 4 podcasts of the day, probably. We welcome a man who is of many podcasts and many faces I've seen this week as well. The man who is the podfather to us all. Do you need any favours or anything, Mags? Welcome back, sir.
It's always a pleasure to come back to Good Cop, Bad Cop. Thanks for having me on. Should be a good time.
I'm so glad that Matt did his American accent, because I'm like, all right, he's warming up, because I know he loves to mimic you as well, Mag, so that'll be good to hear later. It's coming at some point. Yeah, that's on like the bingo card of things, bad accents from Matt.
It's so bad. It's slightly xenophobic.
I don't think slightly is the right word at all.
on that note, I need to actually give a little shout out to Bill from Band from Ringside for the very kind words this week, saying how good my impersonation was of him. So,
Clearly didn't listen.
He said he listened to the clip 15 times. That's how, and I think I listened to the clip 4 or 5 times as well. It was very impressive, man.
I appreciate that, and it did take a long time to actually try and get in one breath as well.
Normally when we'd ask people to describe their podcasts, but I think in the issues of time, that's probably not such a good idea. I'd say we crack on and talk about some good cop moments instead.
Sounds good.
Good. Bad.
What is up? What is up? I'm Bishop TW Takes, and I'm here to let you know about my podcast, Terrible Wrestling Takes. On here I summarize wrestling how I see it, and more importantly, as it's given to us. And whether you're a good cop, a bad cop, or even a criminal, feel free to subscribe where all podcasts are found, and follow me at TW Takes Podcast on Twitter and Instagram.
Good.
All right, after we finally figured out all the little technical issues there, we are ready to move on to some good cop moments. As always, guests get to go first. James, as you are debuting, I'm going to let you go first. What is your main good cop moment of the week?
Right. Well, as I'm not sure if Matt's told you before, I'm not really into watching current wrestling. I used to watch it years ago, so I've been trying to swap a little bit on what's happened this week, and a bit of a kid in me found I just loved the battle royale that we had on Raw this week. Yeah, just a bit of fun. I thought, it was decent, and when I was watching, I thought Matt would definitely love this.
He loves his WWE, that's for sure.
Yeah,
he's a mark. He's a definitely WWE mark.
Yeah.
Wow, he's lost for words again. What is this? Is 2 weeks in a row? What's going on up there?
I'm basking in some praise. It's lovely. I don't get often from my brother.
Now, I got a confession to make as well. Originally, it looked like we might have as many as 6 people. So I was thinking, well, with that many people, we got to kind of cut down on how much we talk in between segments. So I was like, I'm not going to watch WWE because I know you guys you won't need me to talk about that. I'm not going to watch AEW. So probably about 3 hours before we started recording, I had literally watched no major wrestling at all this week. So I tried to quickly watch highlights on YouTube at times too, but don't rely on anything too authoritative from me on WWE. Not that you normally do, but even less so this week. I think I saw it appear in the top 10 moments, and that's about as much as I can say. I can't tell you who won or anything like that, so I'm tapping out at this point.
Yeah, to be fair, that's what I did. I watched the top 10 moments on YouTube, and then what I did was I found that elsewhere, and I watched the whole thing, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Gentlemen?
I didn't watch any Raw, like I never, ever watch. I don't think the only Raw that I watch are the special ones where it's like Raw 1000 or Raw 20. I just don't enjoy sitting there watching 3 hours of Raw.
Once every 1,000 episodes, I find is sufficient for me as well.
The pay-per-views I'll happily sit and watch.
Yeah.
And then I'll go on Twitter or I'll go on YouTube and find the stuff that interests me. But yeah, I just don't wish anybody to sit in there and watch 3 hours of a Raw.
What was the vibe from the 40 podcasts you listened to a day?
About Raw, I don't even really listen to many podcasts that cover the main WWE action. It's normally AEW and NXT if I'm listening to a wrestling podcast or independent.
All you, Matt. Anything to add?
Well, the Raw Battle Royal was won by Riddle, representing Randy Orton, of course. And that obviously led to the main event, which was actually really good triple threat match between Drew McIntyre, Riddle representing Orton, and AJ Styles, of course. And I don't like the. I got a bit back. I didn't like the winner.
Okay.
I mean, we don't really like Riddle anyway.
Yeah, makes a lot more sense now. Like the number 2 moments, number 1 moment make a lot more sense now. You've told me what the show was actually going on about.
Well, to be fair, Riddle didn't win the main event, Mags.
Oh, I don't know. It was Drew.
Yeah, I don't know if that Drew won it. Yeah. I want him nowhere near Money in the Bank.
Okay.
Doesn't need it. Doesn't need it anymore.
I mean, him winning Money in the Bank wouldn't make sense, but you can surely build a feud out of him coming out of Money in the Bank. Whoever screws him out of getting the briefcase, that can be a storyline then building into SummerSlam.
I guess so. I'm being a little bit reserved right now because I'm trying not to go to my moment just yet, if I can help it.
All right. I guess we better quickly move on. All right, Darren, what you got for us then?
Okay, so there's always seems to be tension on wrestling Twitter about AEW versus WWE. People are always looking to want to have a shot or a jab at the at the Enemy. But this week on Renee Paquette's oral session, she was speaking with Peyton Royce and Billy Kay. But she actually covered a story about John Moxley. And when he was in AEW, he got, I think it was a staph infection she was talking about. And for all the kind of animosity we seem to have on wrestling Twitter, she said that Triple H actually pulled her aside and said that I heard that John's not doing too well. Let him know that if he needs anything at all, just to give us a phone call, and whatever we can do to help, we can do. So she was essentially saying that all this kind of like this jabs and backbiting between the two companies is not actually mirrored between the actual talent. The talent still really kind of care for each other and really look out for each other. So it just kind of, for me, it added more weight to fans simping for companies when the companies they're still very friendly. I mean, there is competition obviously, but it just I just thought it was a nice point that wrestlers who are not working together are still looking out for each other, especially when you think of WWE as this like big bad like evil corporation.
Well, that's the difference, though, Max, isn't it? That's the difference between someone like Paul Levesque and Vince McMahon is that Triple H has done it. He's been there. Vince has only ever run a company. He never came up through the territories. He never did all the days on the road as an actual worker sort of thing. He was fired by WCW because he wasn't good enough. They said how wrong they were. One of Bischoff's biggest mistakes, that him and Austin, obviously. But then you get these sorts of things, and it just like warms your heart that you get the gatekeepers of for certain companies, and they're arseholes. So it's really nice to see the actual people in the middle actually just being genuinely nice people. So nicely, lovely.
Yeah, and I do want to actually correct you on one thing. You said then about Vince not
as a wrestler, I mean.
Yeah, but I think you'll struggle to find anybody in WWE who works as hard as Vince. This guy lives, breathes, sleeps, eats wrestling. I mean, there's the stories of him only sleeping 4 hours a day, and he's the kind of person that if you can match his work ethic, you're one of the good ones. That's why he was so favourable of Cena and so favourable of Roman and The Rock, because they work as hard as he does. Yeah, he may not be in the ring every single week, but you can damn sure know that he's there at every single tape, and he's there up and down the road. So I think it's a bit harsh to say he doesn't know the ins and outs of life on the road.
Well, maybe I went a step too far, I think, but maybe that's what I'm being meant to be seeing. So.
Mm-hmm.
I think I can totally see why you pick that type of story, Mags. That's exactly the type of human story that I like. I don't normally pick out actual wrestling matches as my moments anymore. I look for the things behind the scenes, and I got to be honest with you, that story really surprises me. That even though it's Triple H rather than perhaps Vince, as you were suggesting to Matt, even then that still kind of surprises me. That not that if you say like, hey, give my regards to somebody, like I can understand that you can still be civil with people, but to actively go out of your way to offer help, support, whatever for somebody who is not with your company anymore and didn't particularly leave the company on good terms either. And there was a lot of like that's going to cause some friction where you've got one person working for WWE, one for the fact that you can still overlook things like that and you can go to those lengths is yeah, absolutely. That's definitely a good cop moment in my eyes.
I mean, how many people have used the WWE's wellness policy even when they haven't worked for the company for 20 years? WWE still provide kind of like healthcare and surgery money for wrestlers who have not been with the company for decades sometimes.
I did not know that they did that. I'm going to be honest. I always got the impression that sometimes you hear stories of wrestlers having to set up like GoFundMe accounts because they can't afford whatever it is, some medical things like that. I'd assume that was probably the same thing with that well-being program that you talked about as well. That they're kind of, once you left, you're on your own. So that's something else that I wasn't aware of either.
Scott Hall, he has had multiple rehabs for his demons, paid for by WWE. Kevin Nash had a surgery on his knee, I believe it was, paid for by WWE. X-Pac has had multiple back surgeries on WWE's dime. So I think once you've been in the company for any period, if you struggle with your medical bills, WWE certainly there to help you with them.
James, anything to add?
No, I totally agree. I think the fact that they can go and pay all their medical bills for them is amazing.
And for a company of that size, to be honest, they should be able to provide that. If you think of some of the other companies, we're talking stores, we're talking people with only 10 employees. The fact that they have to do that anyway, you would think that a corporation that's taking in billions should certainly be able to do that. But of course, in America, you're not obligated necessarily to do that. Vince isn't obligated to do that, but it's certainly the right thing to do for sure. Matt, what WWE story have you got for us this week?
How do you know it's WWE related, dude?
I don't, but I'm a math person. I'm gonna play the stats, and 95% of the time it is. So I'm gonna try and show off and guess that it's WWE. He's gonna change his moment on the fly now. You watch.
I'm going to VCW, Graham.
Oh, okay.
No, actually, I'm not. Almost. But to be fair, I would love to be there for that triple threat main event. I would love to be there for that at Liberty Lottery for sure. But now I want to talk about the news that has broken in the last 18 minutes.
Oh,
actually,
hold on a second. We've been recording for longer than 18 minutes. So you're telling me then you were ignoring, you weren't paying full attention to our guests, and you were busy playing on your phone. I had suspicions of this on previous episodes, I have to admit.
To be fair, I saw it flash with a notification, so I had to check it out. Because, Graham, this is my good comment of the week, Graham, because it backs up what I've been saying for the last 4 weeks, pretty much. The 24th of July in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, is Roman Reigns versus Rey and Dominic Mysterio in a handicap match for the Universal Championship.
Well, there's the first piece of the puzzle there. And then we need Dominic to win, right? Oh, sorry, you need Dominic to win then, right?
It would be scenes. There would be scenes, Graham. And the only bad part about it is from Dave Meltzer. So that's the only bad thing about it, unfortunately. He quoted as saying, "That's stupid to begin with and make the babyfaces look like they're just losers to start out with." Meltzer, shut up. I'm just very happy about the fact that Dominic's getting a title shot. Because that means that Graham will actually be shut up for once. And then when Sting wins it all out, then I'll be collecting my money, Graham.
Did you say July 24th?
That's what it says.
That's a Saturday, so that's not one of their regular shows then. So this is just a house show. So you think Roman Reigns is going to drop his title at a house show?
SmackDown TV matches are announced, it says.
They don't have shows on Saturday, right?
Pass.
I thought it was, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought it was Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown.
I'm going by what I've written down here, Graham. It may be a misprint.
It'll be a house show. It'll be a 2-minute squash match.
This is the best cop moment ever.
Oh, brilliant. Nailed it, Matt. You have nailed it, sir.
And you know what, though? I actually don't give a damn. I don't give a damn. I'm happy about it. Because that would also be a hell of a swerve for him to win the title on a house show.
That's definitely not happening.
Just
I'm prepared to do double or nothing with you. How bets do we have if you want?
Graham, there has been titles change hands on house shows before.
There has, absolutely. But if you think Roman Reigns is losing his reign right now at a house show,
to Dominic Mysterio, of all people.
To be fair, is what WWE want me to believe. So
it's possible then, James. Last time you saw Dominic Mysterio, he was about to be given over to Eddie Guerrero. Then is that right?
for all that,
Now he's the future
right.
world champion.
is it true, Dad? Is it really true?
I'm your puppy.
One of the best moments, one of the best things I ever got for Christmas was from James, and it was the Eddie Guerrero DVD. It's the last one available just after Eddie had passed away for Christmas. And it was one of the best things I ever got, and it had that ladder match on there. It was brilliant.
I was just about to say, James, I'm guessing Matt's actually kind of easy to get presents for because he's like so passionate about so many things. Like it could be wrestling, it could be video games, it could be Power Rangers, it could be any other kids type of activities that kids enjoy.
Yeah, totally.
Can I say, this comes from a man who
Lego.
This comes from a man who was boasting about beating his two sons on the Wii this week.
I was undefeated. They were like practicing in the morning, and I haven't picked up that game in over 2 years. And I don't play it much anyway. And yeah, their standard of play was very disappointing, I have to say.
What about you, Graham? What's your good comment of the week?
Well, I had to set it up earlier by saying that I hadn't watched any WWE and AEW, but I have watched a lot of wrestling this week. Being on holiday, being at my in-laws, and there was quite a lot of rain in Ohio as well. I had multiple opportunities when I could actually watch some indie stuff, and that's what it was. It's basically time to watch independent wrestling TV. I had the chance to do that. I'm going to focus specifically on women's matches, though, rather than focus on everything I watched this week. I talked about last week. I actually changed my good cop moment right at the end, if you remember as well, Matt. Combat Fights Unlimited, #shoot to thrill. MGB is going to review it this Monday, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. Mags, that might be something that interests you. That combination of MMA style with wrestling together. Definitely a different feel. Not your traditional cage match either. They had the cage around the ring, but there was no ropes there. A lot of things that were very different. Really like the setup for it, and they've already announced the second event too, so I'm excited for that. The Cannabis Cup from June 27th in New Jersey. Absolutely fantastic tournament. The match I would recommend if you wanted to check one out. Casey Catal, who fought for the organization we don't talk about anymore, Mags, and Charlie Cruel, particularly a good match, although all the first round matches were really good. Definitely worth watching the whole tournament. Masha Slamovich is somebody who seems to be on every single show I watched this week. She was on that Shoot to Thrill I talked about. She was in the Cannabis Cup. WWR Plus against Willow Nightingale. And last night she was on Beyond Wrestling versus Jody Threat as well. And Trish Adora winning the main event at WWR Plus. There was so much cool wrestling on this week. I could have thrown in Erica Lee as well, was on Magic Pro Wrestling. There was just, wherever I watched, it just seemed to be that there was a lot of women's wrestling on this week, and it was absolutely fantastic. And we've talked numerous weeks how the AEW women's division is so disappointing, that perhaps the women on WWE, perhaps they don't get the most out of them as they can. On the indies, they're absolutely thriving, and it's great to see. Oh, one other name I can tell you now. Ali Catch. Matt, I asked you, I said, do you know why she's changed her name? I actually know why she's changed her name now. She didn't want to be just all gimmicky with the cat. And if you remember when we were at WrestleMania, you got to pet her hair and all things like that and line on her belly so you can scratch. She wants to be taken as a serious wrestler now, and so she can kind of progress through the ranks. I think when she's not been wrestling for very long. I think it might only be about 4 years. It's not been very long. So I'm sure to cover up some of those weaknesses in those early years, a gimmick is a really good idea. But now with that added experience, she wants to be taken as a more serious wrestler, and she had a fantastic match with Jordan Blade. I think it's Magic Pro Wrestling as well. So I'll just throw that in as my last little bit. But yeah, getting to watch the indies, you know I'm happiest when I watch my independent wrestling.
Of course.
And I knew there was no way you guys would ever possibly steal that moment as well, which is why I picked.
One day I will.
If you pick VCW, it is very possible. I should have added in, but you continued. The triple threat event he was talking about is Jordan Oliver versus, Gino Medina. I think, is it Medina? I can't remember. From MLW. I can't remember how you pronounce his last name. And Brandon Scott, who's a local wrestler as well. I should have asked you who was in the triple threat, really, just to put you on the spot since you were messing with me. I should have returned the favor, I guess.
Well, you could have done, Graham, maybe.
I guess I'm getting a little slow in my old age. All right, here's the
Your word,
opportunity
Pomfret.
where if there is anything else we would like to talk about, we can talk about for up to a minute. Matt, if our guests do not use the full minute, you do not get to steal their time and add it onto your own. It's 1 minute total. You need to stop practicing doing that. If you remember from our conversation earlier. I can mention that in my speaker. All right. James, do you have anything else that you would like to add in? Doesn't have to be from this week. I love talking about wrestling events from 40 years ago as well.
Well, actually, yeah. I mean, I didn't spend long watching it, but I watched the highlights of NXT this week, and I thought this looks like a great brand. I thought it was not like Raw and SmackDown, where they are normally all the huge big superstars. I thought NXT was a lot better, more my kind of wrestling. Obviously, the fans are back there, which is great for the wrestlers. Yeah, I just thought it was a really good show. I think I'm going to catch up on it. And
do you watch any of the pay-per-views at all?
I haven't, no, but I have. Obviously, you two have been going on about Takeover a lot, and said how their pay-per-views are always so good. So yeah, it is something I'm going to maybe look into in future.
War Games for sure, James, definitely.
War Games, okay.
I know it's impossible to watch everything, but perhaps the one I feel most guilty about missing on a regular basis is probably NXT. I have to watch highlights most of the time rather than the whole show. But I do make a point of always watching the pay-per-views. And like you said, those takeovers they always excel. Well, there's a few criticisms of them, but as a whole package, they're a fantastic show to watch.
Yeah. NXT is something that I try and catch every single week. It's so good. That and AEW are the ones that if I have no time at all, I'll try and make time to watch those two shows.
Mm-hmm. All right, Darren, what about you? What have you got for a minute?
Okay, so I don't know if you guys will remember him, but there used to be a wrestler in Impact or TNA called Sanjay Dutt. He was recently released from WWE from being a producer. I think he actually asked for his notice before the cuts happened. Well, the rumours going abound, according to Fartful, are that he has appeared backstage at AEW and he's going to be a full-time producer at AEW. So one of the biggest issues I've had with AEW is kind of like the booking for the boys and the continuity of the wrestling. So hopefully Sanjay Dutt can come in and use his experience and hopefully make AEW a better product than it actually already is.
Matt, I got a question for you, because I know you're a big listener to MGB. Why would Sanjay Dutt be so important to MGB Wrestling Podcast?
Because he's the first autograph Mason ever got.
He was the first night. Yeah, we turned up for the show, didn't know the card at all. And I still remember, there's not many times in my life where I've suddenly felt very nervous and excited at the same time. And we just walked along the merch tables, mainly indie wrestlers who had no idea who they were. And then I saw Sanjay Dutt there, and that's when we were watching Impact. And it was like, oh my God, that's a big name right there. I think he was their X Division title holder at the time or something similar to that. And we walked past his table and then we carried on. And then I looked at Mason and I was like, you know who that was, right? And we both knew straight away who it was. And we built up the courage and went to talk to him. And he is an absolutely lovely guy from this area, which I didn't know at the time either. He went to high school in Northern Virginia. So,
Did you know that story, Graham?
Which story?
That Mag just mentioned. Did you know about that story?
I knew that he'd asked for his release before he possibly would have been cut anyway, but I did not know he was going to AEW. I heard people talk about, would he go back to Impact? That was one of the other stories I'd heard.
I now need to rewrite your Devil's Advocate.
Mine?
Thanks, Mags.
Okay.
Ah,
I mean,
I don't know why he thinks. For anyone who listens knows he always gives me a choice. Like, do you want numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5? He has others prepared, so don't even. I know you're not getting any false sympathy on this one. Go ahead, give us your minute, Matt.
Okay, Samoa Joe is not just is not just on screen at NXT. He's actually part of the recruitment team at the PC now and a coach. Very happy about that. Edge being back, heading to Money in the Bank to win the match by DQ, no doubt. The NXT Breakout Tournament is back, and I can't wait for what's happening in it. We had it a couple of years ago. The winner gets a title match. It probably would be for the North American title this time rather than the world title on NXT this time. But SmackDown heading back to MSG, Graham, where we, of course, main evented once on September the 10th, of course, which is going to be great. And if you want to watch Gina Medina, Jordan Oliver, and Brandon Scott in a triple threat match together at the Liberty Lottery, I would advise you to do so because it's well worth it. And of course, it's also got Matt Makowski there as well.
I saw that, and I mentioned a couple of months ago. His T-shirt is phenomenal. I'm really hoping he has some T-shirts on his merch stand. We're going to try and get there, but we're going to hold off and see what the weather is. It's about 3 hours away, so if the weather's good, we'll make it into like a beach day, and then we'll come back later over the day. But if it's bad weather, we probably won't get out, so we'll probably buy tickets last minute. So hopefully we'll still be there. But yeah, Benjamin's on the card as well, as you hinted at earlier. Benjamin
Absolutely.
is always a pleasure to.
It's his first time back in the ring, I think, since the pandemic. And I don't think he can wait. I don't think he can wait. I'm so happy for him.
Yep. All right. Well, mine changed. I had something I planned out as my main good cop moment, and then I moved it to my speed cop, and then I found something else. I was like, nah, I definitely want to talk about this. This is Shantum of the Paradise at Shan Oblivion. Quote, so I went to my first actual real-life wrestling show at Beyond Wrestling. After the show, I met at Ricky Shane Page and told him that I came alone and was being super awkward. I was talking with at Tony Deppen, and Ricky Shane Page taps me on the shoulder and starts introducing me to people. Wow, what a fantastic story. Somebody said straight away, that sounds like something Ricky Shane Page would do. Also, at Beyond shows, you are never there alone. Just legit walk up to anyone and say hi. We're all there for the same thing. Somebody else said, brother, me and my buddies are always there, front row, so you'll never be alone. And basically, it was just a lot of people saying, oh, next time you're there, just let us know. And so nice for the wrestler to take that initiative and actually do that. But yeah, so many positive experiences from indie events, as you will know from MGB. And he was just glad to hear another one of those stories.
Perfect for time, Graham.
Good. Bad.
All right, don't forget, if you want to catch the best indie wrestling action as well, don't forget to go and check out powerslam.tv. And if you use code GoodCopBadCop, all lowercase, then you can get 30 days free.
Good. Bad.
All right. There's always the flip side of the coin, though, as well. James, what is a negative story from wrestling that you want to talk about?
I want to talk about AEW.
Yes! 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 Yes!
Mags is sitting there too comfortably anyway, so yeah, come on, bring it on.
Oh dear. I was watching a bit of it because now it's on ITV in England. You know, we get all free, so I haven't got to worry about subscription services or anything like that. Right at the end of Dynamite this week, right at the end, JR with his little slip up, and it really made me chuckle when he announced it as WWE Dynamite. Oh dear, it was a fun moment, a bad moment, but yeah.
I if you don't mind, Graham, I'm going to go straight into my bad cop moment from that because it tacks straight onto it.
You better ask permission from our guest first if you're going to jump ahead of people.
Is that okay with you, Mags?
No, I don't believe you should. That's ignorant. It's rude. It's rude that you would do that. In fact, that should be your bad cop moment now. The fact that you are rude to your guests. No, obviously, by all means, go for it.
Okay, because... Well, yes, it was a funny moment, without a question of doubt. And Slip-ups happen when you're doing live TV. Trust me, I've done Techers. I've slipped up doing live stuff live. I've been able to go back and re-record it. However, my bad cop moment of the week isn't that. My bad cop moment is the amount of assholes and dicks on Facebook and Twitter who've been running him into the ground. Now, I grant you that I've been one of those people who has said maybe JR shouldn't be commentating anymore, maybe he should have retired. But at the same time, some of the abuse he's got, he hasn't deserved this week. It's really made me uneasy reading from him. I've been doing a lot of unfollowing, I actually left a group I was in on Facebook because of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was, I'm like, do I think he should be the lead commentator at AEW? Personally, not. But at the same time, no one deserves that sort of thing. People are specifically saying, well, unrepeatable things. And yeah, I'm done. I don't watch AEW a lot of the time. I get that. But, I mean, he slipped up the other week and called Kenny Omega the WWE champion. He was working for WWE for nearly 40 years. It's going to come out every now and again. Guys, there are way worse things he could have said on live TV. Way worse things.
I mean, he has said way worse things on AEW Dynamite. The
Yeah,
times
but
he was perving over Anna Jay. But I do agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. The backlash he's got has been beyond ridiculous. Like you said, he's been in the sport for all of his life. He's going to make mistakes. It's just he's in this kind of microscope where everything he says is critiqued to the nth degree. It was a slip up. I mean, even the books changed their bio to we'll see you next week on WWE Dynamite. So it's even the higher ups are taking it as the gaff that it was. People are just they just take wrestling way too seriously. It's an entertainment show at the end of the day. And falling out with people and having this kind of arguments that you have on Twitter over something as silly as this is, go outside, touch some grass.
I am curious, Matt and Darren, with appearing on so many podcasts, have you ever had a similar thing where you've said the wrong podcast? Like you said, Radio Checkers when you were on Badlands or anything similar?
This past week's 5 rounds, I actually introduced it as Radio Techers because we just recorded Techers, and I even left it in the edit because me and Carlos were just laughing at it so much. But yeah, I do it all the time. I am, and I think I've got Alzheimer's. The things I forget, or the idiotic things that I say. So yeah, I can't give JR any flack for it. One thing I will say, and I think this is more company wide. It's kind of a testament of how WWE is always on the mind of AEW with the kind of shots that they take, and this kind of could be seen as he mentioned it because they had to have a dig at WWE. But yeah, again, it was a silly mistake. We all do it. If you don't, then sorry that you are so perfect.
I'm thinking of a particular error that it seems like this is common for all old people. And I'm thinking specifically my grandparents now. Like, if they want to talk to me, they'll be like, oh, when you talk to our Ben, our Zoe, they'll constantly go through, like, every single grandchild that they have. And obviously, that's family. That's something that, obviously, you talk about those people all the time, so you know them really well. I just think it's one of those things that the brain sometimes gets your mouth gets ahead of the brain, and it just says something that's obviously not quite correct. Yeah, I think that's something that we all do, and it becomes frequently, you do it more as you get a little bit older. But yeah, it's nothing to be insulting about, as you said. No need to be an asshole, as you said, Matt, I believe.
Me and James can definitely vouch for that. Our mother has at times gone through, but she was actually trying to say my name to me, and she went through both my sisters, my James' name, and also 2 of my nieces and nephew before she actually got to my name.
Yeah.
Mrs. Maggs is exactly the same. Exactly the same.
I can say that because Mum won't listen to this show, so it's fine.
James, make sure, don't forget to tag her, okay?
In fact, play it to her. Say, Mum, just listen to this. Listen to what Matt said about you.
Not if you want your legs intact, you won't. Because you, sir, are not far enough away to not be in the bubble anymore.
Hey, Darren, that'd be a cool story to tell at a wedding, perhaps, as well.
Perhaps, yes, if I remember.
I'll add it to my phone.
Fair enough.
April
Okay.
2023. Cool story to tell Matt's mom. All right, good. I got it.
You remembered. Lovely. Mags, why don't you hit off your back comment of the week?
Okay, so for my bad cop moment, it's actually going to cover a little bit of NXT and a little bit of AEW. It's two pretty serious injuries that happened on both shows. For NXT, Mercedes Martinez was legitimately knocked out by a roundhouse kick from Xia Li. Apparently, they had to kind of like shoot the finish and book it on the fly. Martinez was taken to a hospital, and it looks like she may have got a concussion. There's no time frame for when she's going to be back, but unfortunately, it's just one of those sad things that happens in wrestling. And then on AEW in the women's tag match between Britt Baker and Rebel. We saw Rebel injure her knee. Apparently, her kneecap got dislocated. She was able to carry on the match and was able to get checked out by the doctors ringside whilst the match was still ongoing. But again, she went to a hospital and she had a kneecap dislocation. So again, we don't know how long she's going to be out. But it's just goes to show that wrestling is not ballet, and as scripted as it can be, mistakes and injuries can still happen. So, as the WWE say over and over again, don't try this at home.
Yes, Mason and Jackson, don't try this at home.
Now, I thought I'd heard that story before, and I told you I was watching the highlights. I was shocked when they actually made their top 10 moments for NXT, because I'm sure a lot of the fans realized that that's actually what happened, and they actually still left that in there. I think it was the number 8 moment, but even so, once you realize that's a legit injury, then that puts a very different spin on that. And you know that WWE likes to remove things when they do those highlight packages as well, so I was really surprised that stayed in. Oh, I guess it's me then, isn't it? Right?
Yes.
I was thinking it was Matt, but
I can go again if you want me to.
You went out of sequence. So.
I can go again if you want me to, Graham. I could talk more about Jim Ross. By God!
I got a bonus bad cop moment. I inserted the wrong screenshot into my notes. I put the same one in twice, so it didn't make any sense. So while Matt was talking, actually it was a good job you did switch. I wasn't paying any attention. I actually pulled up what I needed to pull up. I want to talk about a tweet from Alison Kay at Sienna. I hate being put in this position, but I'm pulling out of Thunder or Blunder on 7/31 in Indianapolis. It's been brought to my attention that the promoter is defending convicted paedophile Joey Venom. I gave him an opportunity to explain, and he continued to defend him. I have a feeling this is going to happen more often now. I've been a year since #speaking out, and so much was brought to light that I'm not even aware of all the stories. Creeps will do what they do best and try to creep back into the business, and their defenders will too. This is where we have to put our foot down if we want any real change. We can't go back to how we were before, and that said, knowing there's still so much yet to be exposed. There is little justice in our legal system, but we can hold our own communities accountable, and we will. That being said, it will forever infuriate me how people will defend despicable human beings because I guess it's easier than coming to terms with the fact that you work so closely with a predator for years. It's not your fault. You can only address what you're aware of, but I think that's probably enough at that point. I was just kind of reading through the rest of them as well. Obviously, the bad cop moment isn't what Alison Kay did. The bad cop moment is obviously the fact that promoters are doing that and still doing that. A year on, certain things haven't changed. And if we're going to have a proper change, then things like that, like she said, people do need to stand up. Alison Kay is a pretty established star, having appeared on multiple organizations. So financially, it's probably a little easier for her to pick and choose what events that she does do. But still good for her of actually doing that. I don't think I read it in the actual quote, but I think one of the other quotes later on, as I remember reading through all of these, she did say that this was for a lot of money, and it would have also been several other events afterwards. So this would have been a very big payday for her. So good for her on turning it down. The only thing that might turn this into an unsure moment, though, is the promoter did actually respond on Twitter. We regret to inform you, Alison Kay unfortunately will not be appearing. We're sorry to anyone who wanted to see her wrestle. Nothing but love and respect for Sienna, truly one of the greatest ever. That was after her announcement. 5 days before her announcement, he tweeted out, "For anyone wondering, Thunder or Blunder has never worked with Joey Venom and has no plans to do so at any time. We also haven't ever shared anything related to him. He is not affiliated and has never been with our brand." So certainly when you listen to the comments from the owner, that would certainly change the whole story. But it would seem kind of strange from my perspective. Why would Alison Kay say something that is totally untrue? What would she have to benefit from that? That just doesn't fit together right in my mind. So the bad cop moment is people who are doing that. I can't obviously say specifically for this story because I'm not close enough to it. But there is a seed of doubt. But I can't see why Alison would want to lie about something like that. Why would she ruin her reputation creating a lie for no reason at all? Doesn't really make any sense.
And lose out on a payday.
Correct. Yeah, she could have just taken a payday if there was no problem there at all. So there's a lot of things that don't make sense there. I'm sure it's easier to just say, no, we didn't do that, than it is to be honest about what actually happened. But yep. All right. Let me get my clock ready. This is where we have a chance to talk for an additional minute if there's anything else that caught our attention this week. Oof, I could have done with 5 minutes this week, but alas, we've got just 60 seconds. All right, James, do you have anything to add?
Not really, other than Chris Jericho on commentary. His voice just irritated me. That's about it, really.
What match was he commentating on? Can you remember?
He did quite a lot of the whole show, to be fair.
One thing in particular that he was annoying me with was when they were talking about Jungle Boy being the first wrestler to 50 wins, and he was saying, yeah, it's 50-0, and I'm like, no, he's lost farts as well. He's definitely lost. And he was comparing him to Floyd Mayweather and stuff like that, but normally I like Chris Jericho's commentary, but yeah, he was a little bit over the top this week.
Yeah.
A little bit, yeah, and Belgium are a little bit losing.
I think they've a little bit lost as far as I could see. I did take a quick little peek. There were 4 minutes of injury time when I last looked, and it's full time. They're done. That
Italy team looks scary.
Yeah, since Mancini's taken over. Mancini, sorry. I don't think they've lost a game. They've got before that goal that they conceded in the previous round, I think they've gone like 9 in a row without conceding a goal. Like, I know for football, as Americans like to call it, defense is all important. But certainly for footy as well, defense is very important as well, for sure.
Yep, England tomorrow, as we're recording, need 25 minutes of play to outlast that record that Italy had.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
But Italy are also 32 games unbeaten now.
Yep, until they lose to Spain.
And for the benefit of the tape, we should say we're recording Friday evening from an American perspective. Friday at 10 p.m. I think it is in England right now. So
it is
just
now.
The context of where we are. So yeah, they've just finished the first 2 quarterfinals of the Euros. Mags, I think you're up next. Is there anything else that you would like to talk about that you would consider bad?
Yeah, I'm going to follow James's lead and go and slate Chris Jericho. Obviously, he had the recent Blood and Guts match where he fell into a big mat from the cage, and he was mocked by some WWE talent online. Shotzi Blackheart did a gif of her falling onto a mattress. Well, Jericho is still very, very salty about that because this week on his podcast, he fired shots there, saying that she was making fun, and he actually said that she needs to remember this because in 6 months, when she's asking for a job, he will remember and he will leave it at that. So salty Jericho is still salty.
I really wish that Matt had asked if he could have gone next as well because he had something on Jericho. You let him go, and then you would have just followed in with Jericho as well anyway. That would have been so funny. When they said Big Matt, they obviously weren't referring to you, Mr. Willis. He's pointing at himself the whole time and pretending to be faking confusion.
I don't think he's faking.
All right, what you got for us, Matt?
Mags told part of it. I was going to talk about Mercedes Martinez, but she obviously already highlighted that one already, Mags. I'm going to talk a little bit about what happened at LPW this week. Laser, in a multi-person ladder match, fell from the top of the ladder and broke his femur, fractured his hip. He'll be out for 6 months if he's lucky. Yeah, this is a Doc Gallows LPW Pro Wrestling Guild. It was not pretty. Tommy Dreamer said, and I quote, "I almost watched someone die tonight." Yeah, it was not pretty at all. And something that came out this week is someone has rejected that if they are offered their Hall of Fame induction, that they will be rejecting it. This is a man who had a lot of time on TV during the Attitude Era. He won't get offered it because this guy's an arsehole. It's Vince Russo.
Bro. Yeah, I saw that picked up by several different organizations. Yeah.
When's Vince Russo going to realise he hasn't been relevant since 1998?
I don't know if you heard. Well, I'm guessing did you hear the whole interview, or did you just read the stories?
I haven't had a chance to listen to it, no.
Okay, he did make some good points though of other people who should legitimately be in the Hall of Fame, but never will be as well.
Was it
people who are behind the scenes? I can't remember the exact name, but some people like who are behind the scenes who've been with the company for years that they will get overlooked, or certain wrestlers who have their win-loss record will be considered, but they've been like valuable to the company in terms of things that they've done as well. So, but
was
yeah,
it his interview with Dees on It's
correct,
My House
yeah.
podcast?
It's Our House podcast. Yep. Yeah, I think I saw him post earlier. It's had over 5,000 views already in just over a day or so. So, yeah, it's had a lot of interest from a lot of people were taking the clips. It wasn't just that story as well. There was another thing that he asked him that was a great question that people picked up on and have been posting as well. So, yeah, obviously that's brought a lot of attention to it.
So you could say, if he's had so many views, you could say that he's still relevant.
See, I'm going to disagree with you, Matt. I would have thought, to be honest, he would have been an obvious Hall of Fame candidate.
No, I mean he hasn't been relevant. He hasn't done anything relevant.
Well, they mentioned the fact that people like Arnold Schwarzenegger are in the Hall of Fame. So you tell me how he's so valuable to WWE more than Vince Russo was.
I can't on that one.
I thought we had a 5-second break there for a second in between our segments. That was that dramatic pause. I thought there was that dramatic pause that you like to do, and then you were going to tell me why. Huh?
I'll tell you one thing. I'd rather listen to Arnold Schwarzenegger do a speech than listen to Vince Russo ever pick up a microphone again.
Good. Bad.
Are you looking for the newest and hottest in the world of pro wrestling? Then check out the amazing action on powerslam.tv, the biggest indie pro wrestling channel in the world. Get over 6,000 hours of the best events from over 150 of your favorite promotions from 20 different countries around the globe. Brands like Progress Wrestling, Evolve Wrestling, Combat Zone, Defy, PCW Ultra, PWX, Over the Top, Shine, and hundreds of others with fresh content added every day for only $5.99 per month. Get your free trial today at powerslam.tv.
Good. Bad.
We had to change the format a little bit this week because we weren't sure exactly. Like I said, we looked like we might have 6 guests at one point, and then like we've got 4 right now. So rather than cut people out and not just talk about wrestling, we decided it was a good idea that everybody gets to do an open agenda, but we kind of limited to like the speed check thing. So I said a minute. I'm going to extend it to a minute and a half. I'm going to regret this. I know Matt loves to be able to talk for a little bit longer, but I basically scheduled about 6 minutes. So, I should have got you to do the math, Matt. That would have been even better. We had 6 minutes for 6 guests, so how long would it have been for 4 minutes? But hey, I'll take care of that.
27.27.
I love that came up again on Second Zero. I don't think that's going to die. That's going to be the only fraction that Matt knows what is as a decimal. 3/11. It's ridiculous that he'll know that. He won't know a half is 0.5, but he'll know 3/11 is 27.27. I tried while I was in Ohio. I should have mentioned this earlier. They have everything is on Alexa. All their lights. You have to go, Alexa, turn on this light. They have one of the lights that has the dimmer switch on it. So I was going to show you visually, because I know Matt is not really a math person. I was going to give you the visual representation. So I was like, Alexa, globe 50%, and then it came on. Alexa, globe 27.27%.
That would
and you
have
can
been
see
brilliant.
I filmed it, but unfortunately, I will post the video later on Twitter. It doesn't do it justice. It's like when you film the moon, it just doesn't work properly, and it looks exactly the same. But in real time, as I was there, you could see a clear difference between 50% and 27.27%. Of course, people who don't watch Radio Techers have literally no idea what we're talking about right now. So
watch Radio Techers.
There you go. There's your reason. You get some math in there as well. All right, James. Sorry, Matt?
Maths.
Oh, maths. Oh, sorry. Whew. It is Independence Day. All right, James, you have up to 90 seconds. I'll convert for you. 60 add 30 is 90, Matt. You have up to 90 seconds to talk about something that's non-wrestling related. Or you can talk about wrestling. It doesn't matter.
I don't know. What was I going to talk about? Doritos. Still haven't heard about those strawberry and cream ones yet. They haven't turned up at work yet. I don't know what's happening with them. I think it's just a prank. But I think what we're going to do, Matt, on our next podcast is we're going to do some sort of a live tasting or something. I think that sounds perfect.
I think they're perfect place to do it, Jane. Maybe do it on Tech's new channel. Maybe we can do it live for the whole world to see.
Well, get some Doritos, some strawberries and cream, and make your own version of them.
Yeah, make a dip.
Could do, I suppose. I could do.
Yeah. Oh, that's even better. Yeah, dip. That makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Strawberry and cream dip.
Actually, I could do that. Easy.
With cheesy Doritos. No, with the red hot chili ones.
Red hot chili heat wave. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Or the roulette ones even. So Matt doesn't know what he's actually trying.
My palate has got so much better since COVID, Jay. So much better.
It is disappointing that they haven't followed through on those. Yeah, I'm curious. I was curious once you mentioned those.
If he eats Doritos with strawberries and cream, they may follow through.
Very good, Max. Very good.
Oh, Darren, what do you have for us?
Okay, so let's cast our minds back to the 19th of April. A certain Jose Mourinho was sacked from his job at Spurs. And now, over 10 weeks later, Tottenham have finally got a new manager. It's not Antonio Conte. It's not the return of Pochettino. It's not Nagelsmann, Rodgers. It's not Eric Ten Hag. It's not Fonseca or Gattuso. It's not Claire Balding. It's not Ronald McDonald. It's not Clifford the giant red dog. It's not Matt Willis. It is Nuno Espirito, whatever is Santo, I think his last name is, the former Wolves manager. Someone who was available to take the job in the middle of May. He was also linked with the job at Everton and Palace. So it's taken Tottenham 10 weeks to give someone a job who could have took the job after 4 weeks. That's absolutely ridiculous, and just goes to show how badly managed Spurs are as a team.
I'm so glad.
I
If we hadn't have had 90 seconds, I don't think you could have read out all the names of people who refused the job.
I threw some in.
I
Clifford the Big Red Dog.
I turned it down. Yeah.
Wow, it was ridiculous. The amount of managers who they were courting and who told them no. It's unreal. Apparently, Fonseca actually took the job, but then when Tottenham heard that Gattuso might be available, they offered it to him. So Fonseca said, "Well, clearly you're not interested in me. I don't want the job anymore."
I did hear somebody jokingly say that after the, and I forgot his name already, the former Wolves manager, he should ask at the interview, like, am I your first choice? That would have been very.
With the greatest of respect to him, it was getting more and more embarrassing, because the case of like you're 12, 13 deep at this point. Mm-hmm. If you accept the job at this point, then you're saying you're happy being that far down the list.
What I really want to know at this point is, as a Tottenham story, what one of their rival fans would think about this. So, James, as an Arsenal fan, you must be loving this, right?
I love it completely. I work with a lot of Tottenham fans, and you just wind them all up. Oh, look, they don't want a job either. No one wants a job. It was brilliant. It's fantastic. But let's see how it works out. I mean, Santo is a proven record at Wolves, but the Tottenham curse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
who knows?
I think one of his big tasks will be, can he convince Harry Kane to stay? Despite all the negative comments from you people at Radio Techers about Harry Kane, he does a great job at Tottenham.
No,
I direct your comments to Mr. Mags.
As a footballer, I think Harry Kane is among the world elite. His performances for England in this tournament, even with the goal, he's been poor because he's not fit, and he drools a lot.
Matt, I believe you are up, sir.
My first open agenda since I had COVID in January. Yes.
You did one last week.
I didn't.
We did them in the bonus material.
On the show.
That's on pause. Hold on, I'm putting this on pause. We did it in the bonus material last week. We decided that's how we were going to do the open agendas going forward.
I meant on the show.
Wow, in the middle of a domestic.
Yeah, don't listen to the bonus material. He just already said it's a load of crap. So, all right. All right. Good job of promoting the bonus material, Matt. All right. Go ahead. Continue. I'll reset for you, okay? How about that? I don't want to cheat you of any time.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Well, in my first one I've done on this show itself since January, I'm going through something which James might be surprised about. I'm going to music, actually, for my pick. This week, a record was broken, and the record was the first album to spend 1,000 weeks in the UK's album chart.
Let me guess what that is. I reckon it's Queen's Greatest Hits.
Nope.
I know it was very popular. I'll go with Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon.
Nope and nope. It's the second biggest seller of all time in the UK, behind Queen's Greatest Hits. It's 5.61 million. It's released in 1992. It's currently number 17 in the charts. It's been number one for only 8 weeks of that time. It's ABBA.
Oh, Gold?
ABBA Gold has been out since 1992, and it's 1,000 weeks in the chart. And I personally think that's something to celebrate. That's amazing. Fantastic record. And, you know, when you look at these people like BTS and One Direction, they've got nothing on ABBA.
Now, I'm going to ask for a little bit more details on charts because Darren fell foul of this recently as well. Talking about a song that was number 1, and then we found out it was the UK Asian chart, where in reality it only reached like 28 in the real chart or something. So what are we talking here? We're talking top 20, top 1,000, top million albums? Do you have any more details for me?
It says 1,000 weeks in the UK's album chart. That's what it says.
All right.
Top 100.
Top 100? Okay.
Yeah, that's what I
So
think.
it won't. So it hasn't dropped out of at any point.
It's never dropped out, so it's been concurrent for all. I mean, that's close
That's
to
impressive.
20 years. That's
92, 30 years nearly, mate.
So it's not concurrent then. I was just about to jump in with the math, but I was waiting for you guys to follow. I thought Darren would crack the problem, and then it looked like Matt was agreeing. Yeah, if it's not 1,000 weeks, is about 20 years, so it's not concurrent. Otherwise, that would have been 2012. But it's still very impressive, nonetheless. I was dying to jump in with a dumb gag when you said somebody had broken a record. I was going to go, what was it, and which HMV store was it? But I was like, yeah.
Well,
You guys probably never even played records. You were probably all tape people.
My first, no. James can actually vouch for this. The first LP I ever bought, and it was an LP. It was the first thing I ever bought with my own money. I went out to Woolworths, and I came home with Itsy Bitsy Teeny Weeny Yellow Polka Dot Bikini. I was about 5 or I was under Jackson's age.
Bomb ballerina, Timmy Mallet himself.
I want to say I'm surprised and shocked, but I'm not.
Looking
Not
back
at all.
Looking back now, there was so many clues I was gay. So many clues.
Yeah.
Are we going to go round the horn then and share what our first record was that we purchased? This sounds, well, on the basis of the first one, it sounds like it could be entertaining.
James, you're a Coldplay, James, sure.
No, my first record was actually it was Blink-182.
Wow. I think mine was a compilation album. I chose one of the Now albums.
Can't go wrong with those. Value for money, right?
I know that our mother, James, she's very proud about having a copy of Now 3 on LP.
On vinyl, yeah.
Yep.
So,
in fact, I was in HM Pictures this week, and they've got all the new stuff on LP. I was going to take you some pictures, Graham, to show you that they're even printing the new stuff on vinyl still.
Oh,
yeah. It started to
cool,
most physical purchases have actually gone down, except for vinyl, which has actually gone back up again. Obviously, it was
very collectible.
Yeah. My first gramophone record that I bought. No.
It was Beethoven's Fifth.
You got the giggle.
I was waiting to make the joke, and I was like, all right, he's not doing it, so I'll do it for him. My first album.
A long day. Sorry.
I was wondering whether to go 8-track, and I was like, nah, I'll go gramophone. I was like, that's probably a better one. Was Aha's first album, Hunting High and Low. And they're still together even now. I know they released an MTV Unplugged thing probably a couple of years ago. So, yeah, it kind of not as bad as it might have been. There's certainly more obscure ones than that. All right, Matt. I kind of lost track. Is it you to go? I don't even know. Oh, you just did yours. You just went. Okay. We got a little off topic there, but that's perfectly okay. All right, where's mine? Oh, gosh. Yeah, I changed what I was going with. I saw this today as well. Kenise Mobley, who was in the news probably, I think, about 2 weeks ago. Somebody who's been brought in to write for the WWE staff. And she admitted that she had no experience about wrestling at all. And a lot of people very unhappy with that. And she tweeted out this week. Actually, I think it was on Instagram, if I remember correctly. Every morning for the last 5 days, I've been waking up to messages like this from people I've never met. And one of them says here, how ignorant can you be? You get hired, you work for one of the most respectable companies, and you admit to not knowing shit about the product. Dumb bitch. Matt, I'm going to have to apologize like you did. That story was broken by Dave Meltzer. Obviously, an appalling story. People giving abuse for people, and they haven't even seen any of her work, as far as I know. And it was actually one of the things that was talked about on Chris Deeser's podcast when he was talking to Vince Russo. Vince Russo made it very clear. You're not going to get more wrestling fans. The wrestling fans you've got, that's it. The numbers are going to stay pretty similar. If you want to increase your product, you've got to get non-wrestling fans to watch wrestling fans. How do you do that? Well, not through wrestling. You have to do it by other means. So it makes total sense that WWE would bring somebody in from outside the traditional wrestling circle to actually help with the story-making process. But yeah, clear bad cop moment. People are once again giving grief to somebody who clearly doesn't deserve it.
What can you say about that, really?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Wrestling fans are the most toxic group that is out there.
No, Mags. I'm sorry, I've got to correct you on that one.
Okay, Everton fans
they're bad, but they're nowhere near as bad as biased Liverpool fans like Tanner.
I mean, you're pretty biased as well.
His vitriol for basically raising a fatwa against Jordan Pickford for last year is ridiculous.
It's understandable. It is understandable.
I never thought I would hear Matt use the word vitriol. Whew.
Oh, fatwa.
I'm taken aback. Oh, fatwa, yeah, in the same sentence. I hadn't recovered from the first one. Never mind the second one.
A double whammy.
Should we move on to Devil's Advocates?
Let's do this.
Good. Bad.
Hey Maxie, do you think people listening to this show like wrestling podcasts?
I would hope that they do, because they're listening to one.
Do you think they would like our wrestling podcast?
Well, if you could call it a wrestling podcast, because we cover the gamut of topics. We have food takes, we talk about movies, and we intertwine that with watching a little bit of the cool wrestling.
We do indeed. This is Si and Mags from the Chain Wrestling Podcast. You can find us at chain_wrestling on Twitter. Quite proud of our little show that we do. It seems to make a few people giggle. What do you reckon, Mags?
Yep. If that sounds like your cup of tea, go and check out our content on Visionaries Global Media.
Good. Bad.
Now, we will say we agreed that we would do the fan cop moments in the bonus cop material this week, just for time issues. With only being 4 of us, though, I think we might actually have time to defend one from each of us. I think the original plan was it would be just one of us defending from one each. But I think we have enough that each of you can defend from Matt and ourselves. And I think you can, if you do have 2 Devil's Advocates, I think you can give both of them, and I think that'll work just fine. James, I'm going to give you the choice. Do you want to go first, or do you want to pass it across to Darren?
I'll go first, if that's all right.
All right, that works fine. I think with it being this way around, Matt, I think it's probably best if we give a Devil's Advocate, then James gives a Devil's Advocate, and then et cetera, et cetera. We'll just keep rotating that way. I'm sure you've come up with something nice. I'm sure you wouldn't give him a softball, would you? I don't think there's any way. If I know what brothers are like, and I'm kind of looking upstairs right now, thinking of my 2 sons, I'm sure you've got something juicy prepared. Do you want to explain the rules first, Matt? Because obviously 150 episodes in, nobody knows. I know you like our lawyers to cover their asses.
Well, of course, as always, this Devil's Advocate round is a round where myself and Graham and our guest, this week being James and Mags, will have to defend for 20 seconds a ridiculous statement which is wrestling related in some obscure way sometimes, as if it is God's honest truth. And of course, if we say we're talking about the person who is defending it directly. That is for the lawyers, and if there is anyone complaining about it, do send it to our legal department at JGB.
I'm glad that's not a legitimate email address. Like, you
actually, JGB is a legitimate legal department on Twitter.
All right, well, that's good then. All right, Matt, I'm ready. I got my 20 seconds up, so whenever you're ready, go ahead.
Okay, James, your first ever Devil's Advocate, James. The The hardcore triple threat match at WrestleMania 17 doesn't hold a candle to the lingerie match between Tori Wilson and Stacey Keibler at No Mercy the same year.
Well, absolutely. It's all about views. And back in the Attitude Era, it was all about the divas and the bra and panties matches. I mean, who didn't want to see that? I mean, I was 15 at the time, adolescent, perfect. Who wants to see a hardcore match, honestly?
Time. Very
That
nice.
was actually very well done. Very well done, actually.
Tailored that nicely to the audience. I think that was good. All right, James, go ahead. Return the favor. What have you got for Matt?
Well, I've only got one, and it is for Matthew, obviously.
Oh, you bastard!
Being Cody Rhodes' birthday this week, I, Matt Willis, am going to cancel my network subscription and give all my money to Cody.
Well, I haven't got to worry about that because I've just changed banks, actually. My network subscription's run out. So I haven't renewed it yet. So I haven't got to worry about cancelling. It's already been done. So I'm going to have to just tune in and pay money directly to AEW so I can watch the next pay-per-views instead. I'm just going to do that right now. I'm going to do that. In fact, I'm actually going to go and actually maybe send a present for the new baby as well.
Time. Good Cop, Bad Cop did actually tweet to Cody happy birthday from everybody, including Matt. So I knew you'd want to be mentioned specifically in that one, so I thought that was appropriate to do that.
His Magnificent would like to distance himself from tweets.
As much as you don't like him, you can't slate him on his birthday.
All right. James, the one I have for you is actually, yours was the last blank one. I actually went to Matt's tactic, looking on Twitter, and unfortunately, unless I did a Formula One one, I was in trouble. So I stole one I had for somebody else, and I'm just going to give you that one instead, I believe. So, your devil's advocate is... the Great American Bash gimmick makes no sense. It should be renamed the Barely Average American Bash.
Absolutely. Why not? Great American Bash. Who even watches it in the UK? It's got to be barely average because I won't even see it. No, I give up. Can't do it.
It seemed appropriate for Independence Day to not Great America. Now, I don't know how it's happened, but as I was scrolling through there, I think we got a little sidetracked. I don't think I actually did my open agenda unless I did it on the fly, because I still have my notes there, and I was like, I did not talk about that at all.
No, you didn't, Graham. Do it.
All right, shall I quickly just fill in what my open agenda was? I'm not going to take the whole 90 seconds. I was going to talk about great things in sport. I thought one of you guys might actually talk about England beating Germany in a knockout stage for the first time ever. Mark Cavendish won 2 stages of the Tour de France to move up to second all-time on the most stage wins list. After he was left out of the team for the last 2 years, I didn't even realize. I thought he'd retired. But no, apparently he was dropped in place of somebody else. And so popular, it was even mentioned on Chain Wrestling this week as well. James Conrad hit from 250 feet away in the Disc Golf World Championships to force a playoff. And the playoff was on a hole. He'd actually hit a hole-in-one on earlier in the week. It was probably the most dramatic shot in disc golf history. And I know you guys like to mock it, but it has been increasing in popularity a lot, and this will only help to do that. It was been increasing at like 30% a year. With COVID, it was a sport people could actually do safely outside, and it increased ridiculously big, and I think this might be a big push for that. ESPN has been signed up for more episodes. I think they had one tournament last year, and they've already signed up for, I think it's 8 more, I think I read, for, I'm not sure if it's this year or next year, so... Yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about sport. All right, Darren, have you got yours ready, Matt?
I do. Mags. Seth and Becky's wedding won't last as long as R-Truth's title reign combined.
Well, obviously, because most marriages nowadays last less than a year. I mean, they're both in a company where there is a lot of beautiful people around. Their eyes will get swayed, and the worst thing that can happen in a relationship, you have a baby. So obviously, Seth's not going to be getting his oats, and he'll be looking.
Thank goodness we ran out of time. Get a little panicky there for a second. Whew. Okay. Whew. All right. Let's see if you've got something to return to him then. Well, these, I got to admit, I was kind of looking forward for these ones. I figured that you guys might go a little low on these ones. All right, what you got, Darren?
So, for Matt, WWE programming has been much more enjoyable with Finn Balor off our screens.
Well, it's been much more enjoyable for me without Finn Balor on the screen because I've not been distracted as much. So I can concentrate on watching the amazing work that like on Shotzi Blackheart, and of course also watching the other stuff on other brands such as on Raw, Eva Marie and Doudrop, for example. Amazing stuff.
That was a lot of in the middle. He's happy about it because he's had more time to take comfort breaks. I'll throw in another Techers reference there.
I think it's polite to say I'm going for a shit.
All right, Darren. This is what I have for you. Let me scroll down a little bit. All right. The only reason wrestling is still socially distancing fans, unlike Wimbledon and Royal Ascot, is because the fans literally stink.
That's true. I mean, most wrestling fans live in their parents' basements. Do you think they're going to spend money on things like deodorant and soap and shower gel? Absolutely not. They wear black T-shirts all the time. Obviously, they're going to sweat, and they're all overweight. They're filling their faces with pretzels. So obviously, that was brutal. Wrestling fans do stink.
Can vouch for that at Madison Square Garden.
It seemed to fit in pretty well with a few things I'd seen together over the week. I was like, yeah. I was trying to do generic ones to begin with, which I could have done with different people. So,
Mag, did you go in for Graham?
Oh, I have, and it's not wrestling related as well. But I'm still going to do it anyway. He knows what it's going to be about. He knows. So, Graham, your devil's advocate is...
Good job I did my own agenda, right?
Disc golf is not a real sport, and those who claim to be professionals in it need to reevaluate their lives.
Oh, absolutely. True sports stars are people like NBA players who have contracts at like $35 million a year, $40 million a year. The top player on disc golf is only getting $1 million a year. I mean, that's barely enough to live on, right? Over 10 years. It's $10 million? That's absolutely not enough. So yeah, they're just kidding themselves. They're just playing a kid's game. They need to grow up, do something proper like wrestling.
Time.
Wow. The top disc golf player gets $1 million a year.
That's his salary, his endorsement. I actually saw Paul Macbeth, who's the top player. Matt even knows Paul Macbeth, I believe, because he was watching a little bit. Yeah, his endorsements, I think, put him on the top 10 of all sports people, just because he has so many different ones. Like he has an energy drink, he has a watch, he has lots of different things. So yeah, it's starting to become serious money. One of the I didn't realize disc golf was a game. Did you realize that Ultimate Frisbee? Are you familiar with that, Max?
I've heard of it. I don't know what it actually is.
It's like
American where you set the frisbee on fire.
No, it's American football, but with frisbees, basically. So it's kind of like actually, if you imagine netball with frisbees, so you don't have to throw it, and the next person catches it, and so on, and you score touchdowns, etc., etc. And one of their top players, who'd been playing for less than a year, he was also awarded $1 million contract. He also does have like 1 million followers on YouTube as well, or something crazy like that. So it is taking off, but yes. I would admit it's not really considered a proper sport yet, and it's certainly a niche sport. I would agree with that. I know you guys familiar with, I can't remember the name, you might be able to tell me. ESPN did a segment a few years ago, and they've been doing it each year since, of like joke sports. Like they had cornhole on for an hour and things like that. Things that are very minor sports that don't have an audience. Disc golf was actually featured on that originally, and now it's actually kind of moved up to a legitimate sport. But yeah,
I do remember Barry. Barry. Is it Barry Hearn?
Yeah.
The other one?
Well, not anymore, I believe.
No, but him.
I believe it's her now. But.
Well, in any case, when they once said that tic-tac-toe was something they've been trying to get a championship going about on ESPN, I'm like, really?
Noughts and crosses?
Yes.
That's a game that you can guarantee you can't lose at, so that would be totally pointless. There is a chicken that never loses a game of noughts and crosses. Like it pecks at the square you want.
How do you know this?
Just trivia, general knowledge.
Because
so no, you can guarantee
he owns that chicken. That's how he knows.
There's only a finite
he
number.
is that chicken.
Game theory. This is maths. There's only a finite number of moves that you can make, so you can always plan to not lose. You should never lose a game of noughts and crosses. Just for our American audience, I will say tic-tac-toe, just to make it clear. I'll do the translation as well.
Right. Anyway.
All right, mate.
Greg,
Are we going to trade Matt as well?
absolutely. Let's show him how it's done.
All right. Shall I give you yours first then? Let's have a look. I had one that I actually asked Micah I said, I don't think this is appropriate. Can I use it? And he said no. So I had to come up with an alternative one for you instead.
What do you mean? What do you mean he said no?
He said it wasn't appropriate. I will tell you off air what it was, okay?
Okay.
All right. So the one I had to come up with instead was, and this is very last minute, is Tony Schiavone should have changed his pronunciation of the IWTV champion on Monday Night Elevation after Paul White repeatedly referred to him as Wheeler Utah.
Absolutely. Wheeler Utah is clearly what should have been a better pronunciation anyway. I've met Wheeler Utah in person, Graham, as we all know, of course, and I've actually felt his balls. So that's not a lie. There's a picture of me. Achieved, so it's fine.
I'd forgotten about that when I actually wrote this one. That was one of the last highlights that I saw, and I was like, oh, I had to rewind it because I was like, did he say Utah? But Tony Schiavone repeatedly said Wheeler Utah, and every time Paul White said Utah multiple times. You would have thought one of them would have changed at one point, but hey. Utah's an American, so...
This is why a big show should be wrestling and not commentating. Right. Draw devil's advocate, Graham. It's kind of on the fly. This is just defend this statement, Graham. That's all it is. Jordan Grace and Rachel Ellering.
Well, I'm not quite sure what you're asking me to defend, but yeah, obviously they're a great tag team together. Jordan Grace and Rachel Allen both appeared at Nova Pro, and they both had similar experiences on the indie scene, so obviously they're going to work together well. When you've wrestled with people who you're familiar with, obviously you put out a better story because you kind of know the nuances of each other. So it made perfect sense after a long injury that she would come back and work with someone like Jordan Grace. I'm not quite sure what you're getting at with that one particularly, but I kind of had to improvise. Like you said, it was on the fly. What was the one that Max ruined for you?
Andre Duck quitting and signing for AEW, so Vince didn't fire him.
Okay. That would make perfect sense. All right. I think that wraps everything up for the show. This is normally where we give our guests a chance to promote their socials. James, tell everybody where they can find you.
You can find me on Twitter at JamesWillis86. Me and Matt do a very infrequent podcast of What You Talk About Willis. You can find that show at Willis Boys Talk.
You can also find James on TikTok.
I saw on Skype, your Skype name is your old Twitter handle. And I was like, yeah. Yeah, I think that your podcast is probably about as frequent as Five Nerds Go right now, I would say. Somewhere around that level.
It's purely because of the whole lockdown situation. It's been much easier once we can actually get back in because we can do it over Skype like we're doing now, but it's so much easier in person.
I was just about to say, if only there was some technology like Skype or Zoom, but you beat me. You spoiled my fun. Darren, tell us your Twitter handle. You can, if you want to list all your podcasts, you may do so.
I'll go get a book.
Okay.
I'm not going to list them all, but you can follow me on Twitter at the disrespect.
He actually came prepared for Beano.
Wow. You can follow me on Twitter at PodfatherMags. The one thing Whizzer and Chips as well. That is a quality comic. The one thing I do want to promote is Radio Techers has broken away from shooting the sports session. We are going on our own, and we've got plenty of new content coming out on our YouTube channel. So definitely go over and check the Radio Techers Twitter. Give us a follow over there and on YouTube. And after the Euros, I expect big things from us three over at Radio Techers.
Absolutely. Guys, thank you so much for appearing today. Like I say, this will come out on Independence Day. Matt, I guess you should wrap this thing up for us.
Later, y'all. We're out of here.
Boom.
The music was Happy Happy Game Show by Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com. Licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0. http://creativecommons.org/licenses/by/3.0/